Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about where pilots get their weather info from. So obviously they have to get weather info from somewhere, and there are absolutely tons of methods out there, but one way to get the current weather is through METAR. There's a lot of ways to get it. You can get it printed online through your phone or on the flight management computer in the cockpit. To start with, it looks a little complicated, but it is an absolutely tremendous help to any pilot that wants to go flying. So let's get into it.
Central 9000 feet, QNH 1019.
Okay, so I went and got a copy of Sydney Airport's METAR from about 5 days ago. This is what it looks like. Now this is the raw version, and it's just a string of numbers, right? Doesn't mean much. Well, if you thought that, you would be very wrong. This string of numbers tells us the location, date, time, wind direction and speed, visibility, cloud layers, temperature, dew point, and QNH. That's a bit of a mouthful. Okay, so let me teach you how to decode it. So this is a split up version of the METAR that I just showed you. It describes exactly the same stuff, I just made it a little easier to read. Okay, so let's start with the location. The first four letters that we see here is the airport code. So this one's Sydney, Yankee Sierra Sierra Yankee. For Cairns, we would have Yankee Bravo Charlie Sierra. For Brisbane, it's Yankee Bravo Bravo November. And for Cooktown, it's Yankee Charlie Kilo November. Shout out to Harrison, who comes from Cooktown itself. So that's pretty simple. It tells you the airfield that the METAR is from. Okay. So moving on, we now have the date and time. The first two digits that we see here, the first two is the date. So 10, the 10th. It doesn't give us a month or a year. It's assuming that we know this, okay? So in this case, it's the 10th of February because that's the month that we're currently in, and I got it 5 days ago, which was obviously still February. Okay, the last four digits is the time in Zulu, which is UTC. Now it's important to keep in mind that here in the Australian Eastern Standard Time zone, we are 10 hours ahead of UTC. So you have to add 10 hours to this. But anyway, it was recorded at 01:30 Zulu time on the 10th. Okay. Next up, we have got the wind, speed, and direction. So there's two things in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it up for you and make it nice and easy. I should also just quickly mention that sometimes this might have VRB, which stands for variable, written in front. So that indicates that these numbers can vary or change. Alright, so let me split it into two so that I can make it a bit easier. So we've got the direction on the left and speed on the right. Direction is measured in degrees and speed is measured in knots, which is about the equivalent of 1.8 kilometers an hour. So together you did just see it, but I'll show you again. It looks something like this. Okay, so that's when they're put together and not apart. Okay, so next up, I am going to explain to you visibility, which is these four numbers here. So 9 and 9 and 9 and 9 basically means that it's greater than 9,000 meters visibility. So that is excellent visibility. If it was something more like, let's go with 1000, that would mean that there is 1,000 meters visibility. That's only a kilometer, so it's really not that great at all. Okay, so that one's really simple, and there should be / here. You'll see that in the METAR, the other METAR that's coming up. So it's nothing important, it just breaks it up a bit. Okay, so now we have the cloud layers. So whatever the bottom layer is always comes first, and then it'll work up to the layer above that, layer above that, layer above that, until it gets to the top layer. Okay, there's absolutely pretty much no limit on how many layers these can have. So let's start with the first one, which is right here. Okay, so FEW, few. This means few clouds, which I think is between 1/8 and 2/8 cloud coverage in the sky. Now the 044 behind it is the altitude, and to find out how many feet above ground level, or above sea level, sorry, that the cloud is, we just add 2 zeros onto the end there. And that's going to give us the altitude in feet. So that's 4,400 feet. Okay, so I'll let you have a shot at the altitude for this one, but SCT here just means scattered. So that's a few more clouds than few, forgive the pun, and it just covers a bit more of the sky. So what I'll get you to do is I'll get you to try and figure out what altitude in feet those scattered clouds are. Pause it if you need to. Okay, so remember, to find the altitude, we add a couple zeros to the end. So that gives us 5,000 feet above sea level. So our second cloud layer, which happens to be our top cloud layer as well, is scattered at 5,000 feet. Okay, so next up we've got temperature, which is this first number here, and dew point, which I'm going to explain in a second. So both these in Australia are measured in degrees Celsius. So before the slash we have the temperature, so 25 degrees Celsius, and after the slash we have dew point. Now dew point is the temperature that the air needs to be cooled to achieve a relative humidity of 100%. This might not make too much sense, but basically at this point the air can't hold any more water in gas form. Okay, so that's pretty simple. We have a dew point of 14 degrees Celsius. Alright, this last little one here with the Q in front of it. Now the Q, this is the pressure, and the Q stands for QNH, which means height above sea level. So the altimeter setting, so this is basically an altimeter setting to ensure that planes are at the correct altitude. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the basics. This number only applies to any plane flying under 10,000 feet, because above 10,000 there's a standard that's set on the altimeter, and that is 1013 or 2992, which is 29.92 if you live over in America. Okay, or if you're flying over in America. Now, this number here is measured in hectopascals. So remember, that's an altimeter setting, and it kind of fine-tunes the altimeter to make sure that you're flying at the right altitude, under 10,000 feet. Alright, so I know that was a lot to take in, but we know that this METAR was recorded at Sydney Airport on the 10th at 0130 Zulu, which is also known as UTC time. The wind was 130 degrees at 11 knots. Visibility was over 9,000 meters. There were few clouds at 4,400 feet. There were scattered clouds at 5,000 feet. The temperature was 25 degrees Celsius and the dew point was 14 degrees Celsius. And finally, the QNH was 1016. Alright, so now that you hopefully understand how to decode a METAR, I want you to have a go at this one. Now you might note that there is an auto written here. Don't worry about it. All it means is that this is an automatic report. So pause it if you need to, and we'll see how you go. Okay, let's see how you went. So the first thing that we see is that this METAR was recorded at Cairns Airport, which is indicated Y Yankee Bravo Charlie Sierra. It's okay if you need to Google that. It is absolutely impossible to remember them all. The next thing we have is our date and time. So this was recorded on the 15th at 0630 Zulu time. Remember, we add 10 hours to this to find the local time. We're not worrying about auto, so we go straight over to the wind speed and direction. So wind was 360 degrees at 7 knots. We then had a visibility over 9,000 meters. Okay. You will also actually see these two slashes that I spoke about before. So our bottom cloud layer was scattered at 2,200 feet. Our second cloud layer was broken at 2,900 feet. And our third and top cloud layer was also broken, but it was at an altitude of 10,500 feet. At the time this was recorded, we had a temperature of 31 degrees Celsius and a dew point of 25 degrees Celsius. And finally, we had a QNH of 1004 hectopascals. Alright, well, hopefully you can now decode a METAR report. The most important thing to remember though is that METAR provides the current weather, not the forecast or future weather. Always like and subscribe, and if you want to know more or didn't quite understand something, shoot me an email at mat.flightschool@outlook.com. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the sky.